everyone, and welcome to the Credit Jungle today. My name is George Anderson, and I want to talk a little bit about something that I'm quite passionate about and have 31 years of experience doing, and that is getting financing for people who are either currently in a bankruptcy or who have had a bankruptcy. How do you effectively preserve and then quickly rebuild your credit? That's what we're going to be talking about in thecreditjungle.com today. And I stumbled on kind of inadvertently back in 1989 the fact that I could get financing for somebody who was in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Now at the time, credit scores weren't important. They weren't even on a credit report. I mean, that didn't show up until many years later, 1996, 1997, something like that. They didn't even come into the decision-making process until about 1998. But as we all know, sadly, for better or for worse, those credit scores are all important right now. And what happens typically when you file a bankruptcy is that the creditors just completely stop reporting. So in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which is a liquidation bankruptcy where all of your dischargeable debts, and I'm not going to pretend to be an attorney and explain the difference between dischargeable and non-dischargeable, but all of your dischargeable debts, you basically get, there's nothing owed on that. All your debts are completely wiped out. Now you're going to have some other debts like secured debts like vehicle loans, your house, and some other things. Those get treated differently in there. You want to make sure that you're making those payments on time if you can. On a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you can cram down and sometimes bifurcate parts of a mortgage debt. You can have your arrears put into one account, start making current payments. There's different ways to structure that. And I'll get into the differences between how to approach those if you're going into one of them. Again, I'm not giving legal advice here, but I do speak and know 16 words of Latin. So for you attorneys out there, I'm really close. But the one thing that I wish that, and I'm going to very soon have an opportunity to teach this in front of a small group of attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys. But I work with a handful of them that are very passionate about helping their people. But let's face it, okay, they're not going to be lending money to you when you go to buy a house. Okay, their advice to you is being given in a legal vacuum. It's based on, well, here's what the law says and this is what we want to do. Well, no self-respecting bankruptcy attorney doesn't want to see all of your debts get completely discharged and washed out. So that's what happens. Now, if it's a no-asset Chapter 7, they don't have to give notice to the creditors. If they miss somebody, whatever, it doesn't matter. Everybody gets treated equally because everybody gets zero. Chapter 13 is a little bit different. You have to send out proof of claims, and then you can either retain it and pay it, you can reaffirm it. Quick piece of advice, don't sign a reaffirmation agreement on a credit card account. Just, it's not worth it. And don't try to get cute and do a retain and pay. If they've gotten a notice, they are going to report to the credit bureaus that that account is included in a bankruptcy. So here is the tip. Here is the big, important little nugget that I want everybody who is thinking about getting into a bankruptcy, and I want you to do this before you get into one. You need to keep one credit card, and preferably a major bank credit card. Wells Fargo, Chase, US Bank, Capital One, whatever. Just one of the major banks. Credit unions, we've talked about this before, okay, there might be some very large local credit unions, but they're not major banks. The credit scoring algorithm looks at those differently. But you want to have one of your credit card accounts that you do not want to have any mentioned anywhere in the bankruptcy. You want to have at least one trade line and a major bank revolving account, a credit card account that is not affected by the bankruptcy, where we can pull a credit report and we can see that this account was open prior to the bankruptcy, and through the petition, the discharge, the 341 meeting, everything in between, that debt was paid on time, did not get discharged, because that is going to be your lifeline to keeping a credit score, and it's also going to allow you to reestablish your credit on decent terms because they can see that you had at least one debt. Now, if you can keep two, keep two. I mean, if you have a couple of smaller credit card accounts, go ahead and do that. But what's important is that you don't give a specific written notice, proof of claim or otherwise, to those creditors that there's been a bankruptcy filed. If you can keep that notation off of the credit report, it is going to be a literal lifeline that's just going to save your credit score. And when those other accounts quit reporting, it's not unusual at all to see somebody that's gone through a bankruptcy, to see their credit score. People go, well, how low is my score going to go? Well, in a lot of cases it goes to 0, because once there has been nothing reported to the credit bureaus for 3 consecutive billing cycles, they just assume that you're dead. And if there's a bankruptcy, some of the creditors are very, very smart about this, and they will make sure that they know that there's nothing gets reported, because they know that a credit score that's been brought down to 0 is just as difficult to bring back up as one that's at low, like a 500 level. So just some advice for people who might be looking at some very unfortunate things to do. I work with a handful of some great attorneys, and I would love to refer you to somebody who does it and does that only for a profession. I would not recommend trusting yourself in a bankruptcy petition with somebody who practices A through Z and throws in a little bit of bankruptcy in there. There are some things that you can run into that you're going to require a professional, and you don't want to be in there without the right help. So thanks for visiting thecreditjungle.com today. My name is George Anderson, and I would love to talk with you about your situation. So push button, get mortgage professional, and I hope that I can talk with you very soon. Have a great day.